When dealing with a falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
All right. To those listening live or to our patrons, welcome back. For those listening weekly, welcome to the Shift to Reason Radio, the Brainstorm production where we take current events and important skeptical topics and try to analyze them critically. I'm
Again.
Yeah. I'm Corey, and my panel tonight are Sarah.
Hello.
Lisa.
I'm glad to go before Angela.
Yeah.
Angela.
Hello.
See how much better that was?
And, of course, the always amazing Dave.
That's me.
You can hear the smile in my voice.
We're broadcasting live from Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is October 12th, 2018. I guess our first segment is What the Fuck?
Fucking what the fucking fuck? Who the fuck? Fuck this fucking... How did you do fucking fucks? Fuck!
Well, it certainly illustrates the diversity of the word.
I gotta watch that movie again.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, Dave, what do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to talk about Kanye. No, just kidding.
What? What?
No, that's all I want to talk about. But I'm going to talk about this instead.
Sounds good.
This is an article from The Guardian. Here's the headline. 1,600 scientists rebuke CERN physicist over gender bias.
Oh, I was going to talk about that one.
You were going to, well, and you're the physicist, so I kind of thought this is, this is like your field.
Yeah, but I can only give 2 stories per person.
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, Lisa could talk all night.
Oh, my girlfriends are all over Facebook. It's all scientists are all over Facebook the instant it happened. Right? Anyways,
yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yes.
Go ahead and mansplain it to us, Dave.
Okay,
Go fucking ahead.
From my social science background, as a male, I would just like to explain that. No, just kidding. Alessandro Strumia hits back at petition sparked by claim physics was built by men. So yeah, Anyway, so there's a petition right now because Alessandro Strumia had this big presentation, and one of the things he mentioned in the presentation was let me see if I can find the actual words he said here. Well, basically, he's saying that physics was built and created by men, right?
He actually said invented.
Invented, yes, invented. And like basically what he's trying to do is raise awareness or kind of raise the alarm about too many men being discriminated against in the physics and science realms and blah, blah, blah.
It's tough.
You know, it really is hard.
It's a scary time to be a man.
It's a scary time to be a man.
As we've already established.
That's right.
Dave,
Especially a scientist.
I'm sorry. Can I womansplain this for you?
Yeah, let's do that.
Just
Tell
to
me
be
how
clear.
you feel.
Well,
Tell
no,
me
but
how you
what?
I'm just kidding.
This is going to be so bad. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll just say that as obnoxiously and arrogantly as I possibly can. What really happened, Dave? No, but so this guy, just to be clear.
Well, actually.
So Strumia was giving a talk.
Yes.
At CERN. So it wasn't like a big presentation. So CERN is the particle accelerator where the biggest particle accelerator in the world. They discovered the Higgs boson, et cetera. Okay. So they were giving a talk there. It was a conference for how to include more women in physics. That's the irony of it.
That was the conference.
Sure.
See, they didn't say that.
Yeah.
They didn't say that in the
Yeah,
article.
no. I've read a lot of articles about it. So anyways.
That's interesting.
And I've also read through his slides. So he shows up and he presents this presentation about. So, I mean, I feel like in one way, maybe he was like slightly thrown under the bus a bit by saying like it was implied that he thought women shouldn't be in physics. I think what he was saying was that there is no gender bias in physics. If you look through his talk, it's like it's really hard to kind of because he does it in this very physicsy kind of like stupid way, but he kind of does his own analysis, and he says, oh, there's like if you there's there's the null hypothesis where there is no gender bias in physics, and then there's what everyone wants you to think, which is that women are really discriminated against, but it's actually me who's discriminated against because I didn't get a job and another woman got it. He actually brought this up.
Yeah, because she had less.
Yeah, and so he did kind of a very sketchy physicist analysis of what he called bibliographical data and concluded that there is no gender discrimination in physics.
I'll
let you continue.
I read an additional National Post article here while I was checking it out, and they were like saying, "Oh, they overlooked that. All these other articles overlooked that part where he provided data to suggest that this bias actually exists against men."
No,
and I was like, what?
Just no.
I was like, yeah, I'm sorry.
No. But there's like multiple other studies that show in like pretty much like numerous fields of science, especially like your physics and engineering and stuff like that.
Well, yeah,
there's men just all over the place, and strong bias towards women.
And there's a stat here that
just ignore all that.
What ifs? Yeah.
There's a stat somewhere I read. I don't know if it was this article, the other one, about 1 in 10 women. I think were 1 in 10 physicist professors were women.
Yeah.
So 1 in 10, something like that.
But didn't he also say something that like
against.
men's brains are physiologically more capable of doing
I've heard this argument before. I think
that's why it's not an actual bias, because you're going to have more men in because men's brains are just better at physics.
Most of us women who've been in physics long have heard this argument before, so that the argument goes that there's fewer women in physics because physics appeals to women less for whatever reason. But I guess maybe he's saying... And I've also heard the argument, this is a newer one I've not heard till this year, but there's also an argument that people make that the standard deviation of men's intelligence is wider than that of women, meaning that you'll get more very dumb men at one end of the spectrum, but you also get more very smart men. Like there's a wider range of intelligence for men versus women. And so therefore you will get, because there's going to be a larger number of very smart men, therefore there will be more physicists who are men. Now, that's assuming, and this is the big problem with what he did there, is that's assuming that physics is a meritocracy where the best, smartest people rise to the top, which is, anyways, not necessarily true.
Arguable. Now, here's where my social science background comes in, because I would probably argue that socialization plays a bigger factor into intelligence anyway than anything else. So
well, and women, like you're raised to just believe that you're inherently not as good at math. So why would you go into physics if you like not? You kind of need a lot of math for that stuff.
If you ask the question, why are less women interested in the sciences?
Yeah, but are they?
Well, yeah. First, you have to establish that they are. And then even if they are, you still have to ask why.
Well, the thing is, it may be so that women in general, given everything was the same, maybe only 40%, be a 40-60 split or something. But I don't think we're anywhere close to what would naturally happen. And certainly it has been demonstrated, and it can be demonstrated that there is maybe some active discrimination, but also there's lots of ways in which the academic system is set up to be very unfriendly towards women. So I think anyways.
Fewer women? What is Dan getting at here?
I probably said less women.
Oh, less women. Fewer women.
Can I say my favorite thing about this whole thing?
What?
So his slides are available as a Google Doc. You can go and look at them.
Okay.
People have posted them all over the place. Anyway, so you can go look at them. My favorite thing is on the last slide, he put, people told me not to give this talk. They said I would be crucified, or he didn't say crucified, whatever. They said I'd be, whatever, I'd be in big trouble for saying these things, but you know what? In the 90s, I defended Susie, which is a particle physics model of supersymmetry. I defended Susie, and nothing bad happened, so I'm willing to give this talk now. So he's basically saying I kind of like advocated for esoteric model of particle physics. Therefore, it's okay for me to give this sexist talk now, and it'll be just fine. And it's funny just because it's made like international news, and thousands of scientists have petitioned against it. Well, there's just the arrogance of being like, nothing bad's going to happen because I I defended Susie, so
I'm an edgy scientist.
And the consequence was he's suspended. In the article, it says on Monday, pending an investigation for his unacceptable presentation.
But I think he's only suspended from CERN. He's not suspended from his job in Italy.
Maybe not from his job. And this article isn't clear enough. I'm just going to say that you've provided way more detail than this.
Right?
Yeah, I thought.
Sorry, I happen because I said I have a lot of friends who
Thanks
are
for womansplaining that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I have a lot of friends who are physicists. We're still working in the field, and the instant it came out, it like blew up my social media.
Thanks for physicist-splaining that to the social scientist.
That's just
now. Let me explain. No, just kidding. I don't know.
Something that you don't know about.
Yeah.
I'm a scientist. I know everything. Physics is the study of everything. Oh, and the other thing that gets me about the thing he said is that he said, and this is in his slides, that men invented and what was it? Invented and something physics. Anyways, he said men invented physics. Now, of course, traditionally there were all men in physics because that's just how things were. Yeah. However, physics is not the humans who study physics. Right. Physics is the principle of the basic fundamental way our universe works. Yeah. Men did not invent electrons.
Invented and built.
Invented and built physics.
And built
no. So certainly may have, of course, mostly it was men at the beginning who built the study of physics, but they did not invent electrons. Okay, that's just intrinsic to the universe. They just, no quarks were invented by men. No. Gravitation not invented by men. Maybe discovered. But a physicist should know that there's a difference. Because there's a really serious difference.
The ultimate man made those, Lisa. His name is G.O.D. So
he invented physics.
Yeah. He invented it.
I'm having a hard time not man slapping you right now, Dave.
Hey, use your civility. Use your. Yeah.
That's what I'm drawing upon. That is what I'm drawing upon.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
Well, I think that's good enough for that.
Yeah, that's good enough.
I appreciate it. No, I thought Lisa would know more about this than I would, and she did. So
good.
Thanks, Lisa.
Sorry.
No, sorry. Stupid Canadians, stop apologizing.
I think I apologize more because I'm a woman than because I'm a
that's almost woman apologizing.
That's woman apologizing. Don't apologize.
Cut it out.
Just tell me your facts. That's all I want.
All right.
No apologies.
I also put this article underneath the What the Fuck segment. It's from CBC As It Happens radio show, and it's about something that kind of went viral a little bit. A viral video of a feminist pouring bleach on manspreaders is debunked as Russian propaganda. So I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yes.
The video of the woman on subway trains. Every time she walked up to a guy, she'd pour the bleach water on his crotch. And
he would have an acid wash crotch? Is that wash crotch?
Well, and she got quite a few reactions, but according to people who dug into it, it was all staged. And it's...
But I thought she was an actual legit feminist,
yeah,
activist. So why would she, that's what I want to know is why she's
put out other feminist videos.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if some of that's from the same field of Russian, kind of meme making and whatnot. So everybody's kind of seen it. I just wanted to go a little bit through why we know it's fake or how we know it's fake. But in the article on the EU disinformation site, they talked about how we know that some of the guys in it were actors. And they've actually come out and said, I'm an actor and I was paid to be in this video. And and I guess the suspicion is that it's Russian, the Kremlin trying to spread disinformation and propaganda.
So, and that's the thing, is they're trying to rile up the right to go against feminists, right? So that's going back to our civility conversation, is that if we start doing stuff like that, it's just going to, if the Russians got that figured out, They know, like, I feel like they know their shit.
You don't even have to actually do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's already
so that's why I think us doing it in earnest just riles up.
The interesting thing is, like,
to fight more.
I have heard people talk about manspreading as an issue, but never to the extent they would take physical action about it. Like it's something that's stupid that men do, but it's not like a thing that anybody's getting so pissed off about that they're pouring.
No, but if you're just going to go on like a feminist tirade and just be like, you know what, let's burn this shit to the ground. Let's do, like, we're just like anything that is part of that whole patriarchy thing, I'm just going to freak out about now.
You know what, Corey,
it would be included because it is annoying.
As someone from Saskatchewan, from a smaller city in Saskatchewan, technically a city, I would postulate, tell me if I'm wrong, that you have not spent a great deal of time on extremely busy public transit.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
No.
Now, I will just say, as a person who has, that it's hard to explain, but in the moment, nothing can make you more angry than people being inconsiderate in public transit. Just because it's already such a fucking cattle car, right? Like it's already fucking shit.
Space.
It's already taking you 3 times longer to get anywhere. Where it's absolutely crowded. Your face is in someone's armpit. Like whatever. It's just, especially in like I was in Toronto. Like I had to go like 3 different transit authorities to get somewhere. Like like I get motion sickness. It's awful. Like honestly, like oftentimes public transit is truly shitty. And to have a person adding on top of all that, spreading out when there is already very limited space.
And there's the sense of entitlement to do so.
Exactly. And especially you got like some old lady standing or whatever, and she could be sitting if only, you weren't manspreading. I can see somebody getting really legitimately angry. Yeah. I don't think it would take much. I don't know that I would never pour bleach on someone, but I wouldn't be that prepared, but I would be, I can certainly see myself getting legitimately angry. Maybe I wouldn't do or say anything. Maybe I would say something, you know.
You could get your ass kicked in Chile if you don't like let a pregnant person sit down.
Is that right?
Or if you don't like let somebody who's elderly have the
I'm trying to think. I don't think I saw a single manspreader on the Japan subways.
Yeah, there's etiquette, right?
Yeah.
Like I still remember I was pregnant. I was on the bus and I'm sitting down at the front of the bus and it's just, I'm just feeling terrible. And a lady comes up to me. She gets on the bus and she's got like 2 canes and she comes up in front of me. She's like, "Can I have your seat?" And I just stared at her like I'm like 9 months pregnant. And the bus is so crowded. And I'm just like, what? Like, and it was full of university students, like young people. And I remember just staring at her like, I'm so confused. And the girl next to me just wordlessly like got up and gave the cane lady her seat right next to me. And I ended up sitting next to her like uncomfortably the whole rest of the ride. Like, I wasn't like, I don't think she realized I would, like my backpack maybe was hiding my belly or I don't know what it was. But I still remember how emotional that whole experience was. And that wasn't even her really being... I just thought it was weird. But anyway, I don't even know why I'm talking about this. But trust me, transit can make you mad. Really mad.
Well, I think
mad.
It's a question of personal space, and I think we have a lot of space where we live.
Yeah, Saskatchewan's not short on the space, eh?
It's not. And
or
I think we take that for granted.
That's why we give each other so much space, I think. Like,
we don't want to murder each other.
Well, and that's why the city wants to build out instead of taking care of the stuff inside the city that needs to be looked after.
Yeah, it's always about spreading.
Yeah. It's like the ultimate.
It's always about
it's plan spreading.
It all ties together.
Yeah.
I do like this comment in our chat room that pro tip from someone who studied textiles: if you throw bleach on a crotch in jeans, the only thing you'll ruin is the jeans. Bleach is not acid.
No, that's right.
No,
thank you, Lito.
Acid wash crotch. That's what they would get.
But it's not like, I guess acid wash is different because they actually wash it with acid, or do they just...
I'm sorry, isn't bleach an acid?
Bleach is not an acid, it's a base.
It might be an acid,
but it's an oxidizer, so it's going to like destroy the dye.
Bleach is not acidic.
I don't think so, no. If anything, because it's...
I'm looking at you, Ms.
Chemistry,
it's
not... Yeah, no, it's an oxidizer. It's not like if you stuck
pH is 7.
If you stuck, well, like saying something's an acid when I think, again, maybe because I'm more safety-minded than like hardcore chemistry-minded. Okay. Anything like something that's 6.9 is technically an acid,
it's
but
neither
like,
an acid or a base. It says on the
it's not. It's neutral. You wouldn't be classified it,
but it certainly is corrosive to the skin, is it not?
Yes, because because it's an oxidizer.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to leave like something soaked in bleach touching my skin.
But you can be destructive without being an acid or a base.
Okay,
gotcha.
So it oxidizes it just.
When you Google "is bleach," you get an acid right away. Like it's been Googled a lot.
It's apparently a common misconception.
I don't have to Google. I have a scientist right here.
Yeah, here debunked on this.
We Sarah'd it. We didn't even need to Google it.
Yeah, but one scientist or many scientists, what would you prefer for validity?
So I don't know if acid wash jeans are actually treated with acid or not because I'm not in textiles.
Just to answer your question, Dave, I think that one expert is like in chemistry is able to answer that question because it's a basic question. It's not something that they go to.
A basic question.
Well, it's a fundamental question. There's no chemistry conferences where the chemists are like, I don't know, I think bleach is an acid. No, that's not a fucking thing.
Yeah, this
like
isn't a hotly debated
this is a false. Yeah, like I mean,
such that I'm like, no, I don't think it is.
You know,
I mean, it's like being like, are electrons a thing? I'm not sure. Let's have a physics conference. No, you can just ask me, and you can take my word for it, and I don't want any more fucking debate about it.
I have faith in Sarah. That's fine. But
and I'm new here, and they have faith in me already. How stupid.
But there are times that an individual scientist who is apparently an expert in something will say something terrible.
Yes, on something that's not fundamental.
I don't know. Smoking was good for you once upon a time, so I don't know.
It sure was.
So I don't know. That seemed like pretty basic.
That is actually a very difficult thing to prove. Actually, it was very difficult to prove because it was so pervasive. It was actually something you really require like really high-powered epidemiological studies to prove that smoking is bad.
I love Leto's comment of if you wear jeans, just touch your crotch. Do it. The thickness of the fabric here is like armor.
Yeah, no, I think it was just to ruin the pants. It wasn't to be like assault. The video.
I feel like it would still possibly burn your skin, hurt your skin.
No, it was diluted bleach.
Yeah,
it's still
water too. So
and the jeans is gonna soak up most of it.
How come the headline didn't read "Women pours diluted bleach on man"? That would have been a lot more clear to me.
Because that's not clickbaity enough.
No,
that's right.
But I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad it wasn't factually inaccurate and said pours acid in crotches of men. Because then I'd be upset and be like, "That's not acid. That's bleach. It's just different." Like,
I'm really glad too. I'm super glad.
Did we get to see an after picture of his jeans? Like how?
I'd like to know. Actually,
I don't know if the video goes that far.
I don't.
It's just them reacting.
So. Yeah, it was always just men reacting to somebody pouring this fluid on them.
Sodium hypochlorite.
Is it like when people bleach their hair?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like you can
Guy
put
Fieri.
bleach on your laundry and make your whites whiter.
Yeah,
so I'm told.
Right.
I don't do that kind of laundry.
I don't either.
I throw all of my clothing in the same load. And
I'm too lazy. I'm too lazy to be that organized.
Yeah.
Fuck separating darks and lights.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure acids like bleach cause autism though, so I wouldn't do that.
No, that's one of the cures for autism is putting it's hydrogen peroxide. I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe there's bleach too, but
Are you supposed to drink it or something?
No, like enemas,
like whatever, right?
Isn't peroxide bleach? Like I've heard those two words, peroxide and bleach. I've heard peroxide.
Yeah,
bleach
because they're both oxides. Like peroxide it's like hydrogen peroxide is its own thing, but they're both oxidizers.
That's a base, is it not?
Can I
potassium or
get different types of bleach? Is there like a peroxide bleach and like a...
Well, like bleach is like just the common name for sodium hypochlorite. So when if you're buying a bleaching agent, like if you're buying OxyClean and it has bleach or cleaner has bleach, a lot of time it's just going to have some sort of like oxidizing compound that acts in a similar way, but it's not necessarily sodium hypochlorite. It could be a peroxide of some sort. There's all different kinds of peroxide types and such.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, going down
Dave is vulnerable.
I'm worried.
All right.
Don't touch your crotch, Dave.
I'm wearing joggers. Nobody throw bleach at me.
What are joggers?
Just don't spread over there.
Saggy crotch pants.
Let's move on to the Woo Report.
I'm not a scientist, but if I can tell you your science sucks, then your science really sucks.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Angela. You're up.
So there's this teacher. that is just waiting for my phone to bring up the link.
We're regular. So are we
What
not
if we
regular
get high
scientists?
on?
Or do you mean like regularly
Are you saying
appearing scientists?
Yeah.
Or irregular scientists? I don't know whether I should
Is
be
this a
offended or
complaint?
not.
Is this like these scientists are not regular enough, therefore we want more? Or is it like regularly have more scientists like these people?
I'm not a scientist.
Please clarify.
So I have to remove myself.
Dan TML7.
I have to recuse myself from this podcast because I'm not a scientist.
Drunk Lisa impersonating Peterson. Can I do my Irish thing again? That's easier. Sorry, Angela, go ahead.
Yeah, your story.
So there's a flat earther trying to convince her school board to teach the controversy of flat earthers. There was a woman in the Methacton school district in Pennsylvania who delivered a public statement about something that she gave a 4-minute statement on how the earth is flat. She was bound and determined that this is a thing that should be taught in schools.
See, and like I actually agree with that you should be teaching all kinds of nonsense as nonsense and teaching children critical thinking skills. Be like, how do we know that this is bullshit, kids? Maybe not use that language, but how do we know that this is
and I think that's a
hokum?
fair shake. I think like they think people that believe that the earth is flat think that we're being lied to.
Right.
That it's all smoke and mirrors, just like chemtrails, weather manipulation, all that stuff. I think I agree. I think it should be taught, but not as a, hey kids, we're going to learn how
the earth is actually flat.
Yes.
Some people believe the earth is flat and some people believe it is round. No, it's not a belief thing. The earth is round. Round-ish, not perfectly round.
It's roundish.
Yeah, it's roundish. More round than flat.
Smoke and mirrors, indeed, Dan. It would be an interesting show. It would be an interesting show for sure. But I think, I mean, a lot of the school board members were incredulous that she was actually presenting this, suggesting that it should be taught in schools.
This is clearly not a thing that should be taught in school.
Yeah, and there were students present for this presentation, and they walked out. Basically like, fuck this. I'm leaving.
That gives me hope for humanity.
Yeah.
It does. It does. And, I mean, my next story continues to give me hope as well, because there are kids out there that aren't just sheeple. They do think for themselves. Yeah. They do think critically. See, it is elephants. I didn't realize elephants was a thing.
First Nations people believe in Turtle Island. So
Leto is brilliant.
It's a gorgeous picture. Sorry, we're talking about the chat.
Yeah.
I feel like people that aren't seeing the chat are just like, what the
fuck? Why aren't you on the chat?
You should join the chat if you want to like add another dimension to our podcast.
But don't some people listen to this afterwards?
Sometimes.
It's true.
But if they join the chat, they can see it after the fact.
You can see the turtle.
Oh, okay.
You can see the turtle.
I see.
Go to the Discord.
It's a very pretty picture of elephants.
I could potentially save that image and put it into the show notes as well.
Show notes. Yeah.
That could be the cover.
You could do that.
That would make me happy if that's what the world actually... Like, think of how, like, astrophysics would be way more interesting if you were, like, looking at and analyzing turtle fins and...
Astrophysics is interesting as it is.
Yeah, but I'm saying add that little extra oomph.
You could do this instead of
the only way it's interesting is because you studied it.
Fucking nightmare to me.
Astrophysics?
No, trying to friggin' see an elephant through a fucking telescope anyways.
It would be as easy to see anything else through a telescope.
No, because elephants don't emit... I mean, I guess they emit in infrared. I guess you'd have to... No.
Well, I guess they'll reflect the light of the sun.
What's the albedo of an elephant? I don't know.
Anything else?
I don't know, people.
Anywho.
We're all brilliant. Dan, you should have come here. Damn it. Should have come here to hang out with us, Dan.
Or should we say, Dan it?
Dan it.
No, you shouldn't.
Dan it.
No, you shouldn't say that.
Sorry, I know you don't like the puns. No, he doesn't like puns.
Oh dear. That's a problem.
Well,
He's a punnist.
Let's get punning then.
Oh, we need to do that because it really makes Corey mad.
Then he'll move on to the
I did the really good pun,
Angela,
though.
I think your story...
Confirmation bias? That was brilliant. Because it was
I wrote it down.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
wrote it down so we wouldn't forget it. That's hilarious.
And it's like the only thing you've written down, except... Anyways. Also, Angela, though, I think the story that you're doing here has fallen a little flat. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that as you were drinking. That was mean.
I almost spit out my sparkling water. It's kind of shapeless.
All right, I'm going to do my story now.
Do your story now.
All right.
Do it, Corey.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Is it about Kanye?
My story is from Science Alert, and it says, anti-vaxxers spread misinformation as science to get parents on side.
And they also spread measles.
Yes.
Yes, and various other communicable diseases. And my only response to that is, duh. That's exactly what they do, and we know that, and that's why it's terrible.
Yeah, they apparently it's quite an old article, but they studied 500 anti-vax sites and found that they had a mix of pseudoscience and misinformation.
Maybe they didn't have all the vax.
You're out.
Wow!
But this is exactly why the anti-vax population is so dangerous, because like it says in there, you're a concerned parent and you want to do the right thing, and anything that sounds sciencey, you're going to believe, especially if it's, you got that itty bitty bit of conspiracy theory of the government's out to make everybody slaves to big pharma kind of thing. It's that's what makes it so dangerous. Like the flat earthers, I'm less concerned about because people aren't actively dying because people are flat earthers. Whereas
what about when people fall off the edge of the earth?
See, but they're not though. So they're fine.
Good point.
None of them have actually made it to the ice wall at the end.
I think there's a smaller number of
John Snow did.
Yeah, there's a smaller number, and they're not
growing.
Yeah, and they're not causing communicable disease outbreaks.
Yeah, that's right.
And such. Fair. They're causing stupidity.
They're spreading the stupid.
And conspiracy theory. Yeah, exactly. That's an amazing comment. So one of the comments is, I'm autistic, and last time I got my boosters, I told my doctor, autism intensifies, and she looked at me with the saddest expression on her face.
That's amazing.
Amazing. You win the chat room today.
Intensifies.
I don't know who you are, but you're awesome.
Excellent memeing.
France is too far away.
Well, it's just in France. It's not that far. It's like a 7-hour flight from Toronto.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
That's not too bad at all. No.
Basically, the article continues on and kind of points out that we need to address the fears of parents in a way that kind of doesn't demean them, doesn't make them feel like they're being attacked, but in a way that helps.
I think it goes back to them not feeling hurt, right? Like a physician is just going to be like, time for your shots. Be like, well, I have some questions. Like, no, just do your damn shot. Like, they're not going to listen. They don't have time either, right? Like, our healthcare is such that you get a 10-minute appointment, if that. Yeah. Whereas the naturopaths and homeopaths of the world have nothing but time to give you. And they leverage that. They know that you're going to listen to whatever they have to say if you just sit there and listen to them and then offer a solution to their problems, right? So, I don't know how we fix that because
I think there needs to
hire more doctors so that people have more time for that. But we need that for numerous other reasons and aren't getting it. So
that's right.
We need to pay our doctors differently, though. We need to not pay our doctors per patient. Yeah, because that's what's
not
created
all doctors are. I don't think. Well. Because my doctor is different, and I know my boss said his doctor doesn't pay get paid by a patient.
Okay.
They get paid by
then it must have recently changed because my understanding.
I think you have the option to be one or the other.
So maybe that's changed a little bit. Yeah. But I think previously it has been the case that doctors
you're
get
incentivized to be on
Precisely.
that pay-per-patient system.
Yeah.
I think some doctors choose not to because they don't want to have that kind of practice.
That's right.
But at the same time, when you have so many people, like I know when you're a new doctor and you're taking patients, you're full, like
really quick.
right away.
Yeah.
So when you see people calling, are you still available? Can you be my doctor? I think you feel the pressure to help as many people as you can. And when somebody comes in with a garden variety complaint that you know exactly, it's like, oh yeah, here you go. Okay, get out. Like your problem is easy. I'm done with you because I have a million other people to help. So I don't think it's just all greed and nonsense. It's it's a shitty system. We don't have enough.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There needs to be more attention paid to people that need their concerns heard, and there needs to be that validation. And parenting is fraught with guilt,
so much fear
and
guilt.
fear. Yeah, that's one thing.
You're never doing the right thing.
Never, because everyone else
ever.
is judging you, and you're sucking at life, and you're fucking up your child.
Yeah, for the rest of their life.
Yeah. So it makes sense. So was there anything else to add to that article?
I don't think so.
Sorry, we totally derailed you, Corey. You're so
totally
patient.
Fine.
He is patient, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I feel bad.
This has been an excellent podcast. Actually, I haven't had to do any work.
Oh, so you're lazy is what
What's
you're saying.
work? You mean like we just like railroad you and you don't have to say anything? Is that what you mean?
I could just sit here and you guys will go around the table.
Shrilly give our and aggressively give our opinions.
No, it's not. It's smart people talking exactly the right amount.
Wow, nobody has ever told me I talk the right amount.
Let's go to science.
No one's ever told me I'm smart.
We got a bumper.
If you base medicine on science, you cure people. If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works, bitches.
Yes, science!
All right, Lisa.
Just for the record, before we get started, science does not kill people.
I was like, did he mean cure people?
I think he either says cures or heals. I don't know which one, but it sounds as like kills.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Kills people. No, don't say that. Of course it does. We don't want to tell anyone.
Cures people.
Like it can. If you wanted to.
It can kill people.
Sure.
If you wanted to.
That's true.
All right.
It's your turn, Lisa.
My article, it's from the Washington Post. Quote, Nobel Prize in Physics awarded for, quote, tools made of light, first woman in 55 years honored. The 2018 Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded Tuesday to this is on October 2nd, so it was actually awarded a few weeks ago, to Arthur Ashkin, Gerard Mourou, and Donna Strickland for their pioneering work to turn lasers into powerful tools. So I think probably the thing that everyone's getting really excited about more than the Nobel Prize itself, Ashkin's prize is for a different set of discoveries than the other two. So he basically invented optical tweezers, which are very important for atomic and molecular physics work in modern days.
Good job, guy.
But the really, to me, a lot of people, exciting thing is that the first woman in 55 years has been awarded a Nobel Prize in Physics. So there have been many women who've been overlooked for the Nobel Prize, despite women making important contributions to the field. And finally, we have a woman who is acknowledged for her work. One thing that's really cool about this in particular, I'll go more into what the work was about, but she actually did this work in the 80s with her PhD advisor.
As a graduate student.
With Mourou, sorry. So in the past, generally the Nobel Prize has overlooked anybody who has overlooked students and doesn't include students when a Nobel Prize is won for a specific topic, even though those graduate students may have been doing the vast majority of the work. The classic example of that is in the 70s when Jocelyn Bell discovered pulsars. She built a telescope and discovered pulsars. Wow. And her supervisor, who was a man, won the Nobel Prize for it, and she did not. And the argument at the time was, Yeah. Oh, she was a student, therefore she shouldn't get the Nobel Prize. Well, this is one reason why women have been so excluded from winning Nobel Prizes, because it's known as the leaky pipeline. As you go along in physics, you get fewer and fewer women at the higher and higher levels. So, I mean, Jocelyn Bell is still active in the field, but she was always kind of snubbed, and very gracious about it, actually. But Strickland has not been snubbed. So I thought this was a really sweet thing, a really sweet quote in the story. A reporter asked Strickland Tuesday what it felt like to be the third woman in history to win the prize. And she answered, "Really? Is that all? I thought there might have been more." So she actually didn't know, which I think is just so sweet. And then she's obviously, we need to celebrate women in physics because we're out there. I don't know what to say. I'm honored to be one of those women. So she's actually a Canadian. She's from Ontario, and she currently,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she works at the University of Waterloo now, I believe. But I looked at her Wikipedia page. She's from Guelph. So what they did is they discovered, what's it called? See, I'm not like an expert in their particular area of physics. So, nope. Damn it, I had it.
I thought it was the optical tweezer thing. And
the first guy, she discovered a different thing. No, it was two separate things. Her and her supervisor discovered.
For the same thing.
Nope. No, don't, hang on. I'm so sorry. I really did want to say this properly. So basically, they paved the way for the most powerful lasers ever created by humans via a technique that stretches the laser and then amplifies the light beam. So basically, up until the 80s, physicists were having trouble creating very powerful lasers because basically the lasers, like if they got too powerful, would kind of they would just destroy the optics of or the equipment that was being used to create the laser. So what they did was they stretched out the laser beam using fiber optics, amplified it, and then kind of recombined it and created a laser that pulsed extremely high intensity. So for example, this technology is required for laser eye surgery. So we wouldn't have that without this, and many other applications. So it's cool. Yeah, it's really, really important work. What else was I going to say about this? Actually, there was one other story I thought I would just kind of mention tangentially to this one. Up until the moment that she won the Nobel Prize, Strickland did not have a Wikipedia page. In fact, somebody tried to create her a Wikipedia page last spring, and Wikipedia editors decided that she was not high profile enough or important enough to have a Wikipedia page. So they were actually scrambling to create a Wikipedia page once it was announced she won the Nobel Prize. So, I mean, this has been seen as further evidence of sexism. I mean, how does this woman who's a full professor and who's made very important contributions to atomic and molecular physics?
If you looked up the type of, like the stretching laser thing, would her name be mentioned?
Even? Oh, yeah, because she invented it.
So there's a Wikipedia page for that. There's just no link.
And there was a Wikipedia page for her supervisor, who she worked on to invent this since 2005. Right. So the actual achievements that she's had have not changed, but overnight, because she won the Nobel Prize, then she gets her own page. But until that point, she wasn't deemed worthy of having a Wikipedia page, which I think is kind of telling and very interesting. And I don't think she's harping on about it or anything like that, but I just thought that was a really interesting little factoid about this story. So
for sure,
yeah. Rather than going into too much more detail, I think that's probably enough. But it's a really great achievement. So
cool. All right, Sarah.
Speaking of great achievements, my article is entitled "Cervical Cancer Set to be Eliminated from Australia in Global First." Basically, because of the HPV vaccine, I guess being so well implemented in Australia, they're saying cervical cancer is set to become a rare disease in Australia within just 2 years, and rendered so uncommon by 2028, it will be deemed eliminated as a public health problem for the first time anywhere in the world. I tried to do some research as to like what the uptake is here and other places, because I know the HPV vaccine has been around now for over 10 years.
Right.
And I don't know why this is a global first, if they were just the first ones to get it, or they implemented it better.
I think they were one of the first countries to get the vaccine.
Like by enough span of time to.
I know that there's still a lot of people, even in Canada, who are like
it promotes promiscuity and all that. Like, and
they're also like really like, oh, well, has it been tested enough? And
but like there's a fairly large anti-vax community in Australia too. Like I think Melbourne is the anti-vax capital of Australia. So that's why I'm like, are there just enough less of them or fewer? Sorry, of them that Australia is successful and we aren't, or the States isn't, or any other. Know. Like I know, like lots of places in like the EU are a lot more fearful of rolling things out until they've been like their testing is kind of
I wonder if maybe they have
but
some rules or something that like I can't recall if it's Great Britain or like the UK or if it's Australia, but one of those two places has a no jab, no play type rule.
Yeah,
for some,
I know
vaccines.
Australia does, at least certain parts of Australia for like social assistance benefit, like whatever their welfare.
Right. You got to get your kids vaccinated.
Yeah, and if they added the HPV vaccine to the mandatory
that might
list,
be part of it.
Then, but maybe it wasn't. I don't know what it's like here. I don't have school-age children. I looked. It's on I think grade 6 you get it.
I'm not sure.
It's optional, though, in grade 6.
It's optional.
Well, the form I looked at, it was, they listed all of them and you sign your consent to each one separately. So you could...
Another issue may be whether they provide it to boys as well as girls because girls can get it from boys. So...
Yeah.
I remember, so
that's a good
story,
thing.
like TMI, because I am the age I am, we didn't have this back when I was a teenager, grade 6 or whatever. But I remember going for my first physical as like an adult. I booked my own doctor's appointment and I was fully prepared to get a pap smear because that's just a thing an adult woman has to get now.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, are you sexually active? I'm like, oh no, I'm actually still a virgin. He's like, oh, well, then you don't need it. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you don't get cervical cancer as like sexually transmitted. I'm like, what? This was not told.
Yeah.
You can get cancer from...
I'm never having sex.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just going to hold on to this virginity then forever, I guess. Like, what the... Like, of all the scary things they teach you in Catholic school about sex, they don't tell you can get cancer as a result. And I was like, how is this not a well-known...
They also don't tell you that you can see nicotine on your cervix.
That you can...
Like when you smoke.
If you're a smoker.
One of the reasons I quit smoking was that when I went for my colposcopy, my gynecologist was like, yeah, I can see the nicotine on your cervix. I'm like, oh, it's super gross. That was the thing.
So they should put that on the cigarette packages.
Yeah, they should just have
Who the fuck is looking at your cervix other than...
a gynecologist.
Oh, okay.
She was in for an actual procedure.
Okay.
But yes, they are...
Nobody else. I don't think anyone else would be like, hey, you mind if I have a look at your cervix?
Yeah, so they started...
There's like a fetish thing.
It was rolled out to girls in 2007 and expanded to boys in 2013. So there's still a big gap. What's that?
But boys. That's the thing. Like
boys?
Doing more boys is going to give you better results.
Yeah. Yeah, but they only
generally
started doing
that's
that.
true. That's always true.
I missed.
Doing boys gives you better results. Yeah, but with HPV vaccines, also true.
But it was still quite a big gap. Like it wasn't until 2013 that they rolled it out to boys.
Yeah, but I don't think we've rolled it out here at all. Like I think if I wanted my son to, have we done it here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
it is
it's not
optional.
mandatory.
Yeah, it's not mandatory.
But like in your grade 6 vaccines,
so for
it's
parents,
in there for
FYI,
boys. Yeah.
HPV vaccine, yes, will protect girls who have sex with your son, which maybe you don't think about it, from getting HPV from your son. But also, head and neck cancer is caused by or can be caused by HPV, and boys can get head and neck cancer. So how about get the vaccine just for that?
Yeah, cervix, anus, vulva, vagina, penis, and throat. Mm-hmm. So one of the comment, was it in this article or something else, that it was an actual like neck and throat surgeon who was saying like, get it for your boys because this is a thing.
Even if you'll only get it for selfish reasons.
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? Like I find it kind of funny that it was only when I heard it was rolled out to women, like girls. It was like, well, why aren't they also doing boys? Like I didn't understand why it wasn't just all people of the same age, right? Yeah. So it's kind of
apparently
sexist in that way too.
They offer it in grade 6. but then again in grade 8.
I assume that's a booster.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you can turn it down in grade 6 and get your initial one in grade 8 if you don't get the first time.
That may be a situation where you have girls who say, well, my parents said I couldn't get it in grade 6, but hey, I'm going to take control of my own body now. I'm grade 8.
Yeah.
That may be a thing there.
Yeah, because there was this huge myth about...
Or, people realize their daughters are total sluts and they better do it in grade 8.
Okay, well, actually, honey, let's get you that. Yeah, but that was a huge myth, is that just like putting your child on birth control, that it's going to encourage them to be... And they actually did studies tracking the promiscuity of young girls and women, and they found no difference between ones that were vaccinated. Like, if you're going to be slutty, you're going to be slutty. If you're going to not ever have sex, you're going to not ever have... It doesn't matter if you're vaccinated.
Yeah.
So, because I was reading, of course, the Catholic bishops, even in Saskatchewan, were saying, well, caution your children. We preach abstinence and purity. So you don't need to get that vaccine because... And I think they stepped back after they were presented with the research of, no, it doesn't increase promiscuity. Yeah. But at some point in their life, they're going to have sex. And yes, in a perfect world, there would be no premarital sex ever, and you would only have one partner, and thus you would never spread HPV. But that's not the real world.
No.
I'm pretty sure that old men in the Catholic Church would never... give anyone advice on what to do with their bodies.
Yeah. No, they keep that to themselves,
or how and
right?
when to have sex.
No, I'm pretty sure they don't do that.
No,
I think you're probably wrong.
I must
How
have
would they
read
weigh
fake
in
news.
on something like that?
They told all of Africa that you don't need condoms. So
That's right.
Oh yeah, that.
They are quite knowledgeable on the subject.
That doesn't sound like them, Dave.
Somehow.
Because condoms make you promiscuous.
All right.
And they're sinful.
Let's go to politics, and Lisa has a politics story.
Oh, fuck.
Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck. Yeah! Well, where do people think these politicians come from? They don't fall out of the sky. They don't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from American parents and American families, American homes, American schools, American churches, American businesses, and American universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out.
Okay. I cannot do this story justice. Like, just to first starters, like, this is way beyond my pay grade. But I did think it should be brought up because it's bizarre. Okay, I don't know.
It's a lot. I read that whole big one.
You have a pay grade?
I couldn't turn away.
Well, yeah, because I'd have to get paid like at least 10% more than my current zero. So I'd need zero.
So zero?
No, but it's too much. Okay, so the New York Times came out with a story on October 2nd, I believe. Yes, same day the woman won the Nobel Prize. There you go. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's an in-depth expose entitled "Trump Engaged in Suspect Tax Schemes as He Reaped Riches from His Father." So basically... Okay, so first of all, this is like a 14,000 word newspaper article.
Yeah,
it's like a sixth of a book sort of thing. So, and I highly encourage you to read it. I read parts of it, but I also, just to prepare for this, I listened to some podcasts with the reporters who wrote it. And I don't know if anyone ever watches Democracy Now! They're sort of a very low budget, I guess, news program on YouTube, but they interviewed one of the reporters, and it's actually a really good thing to watch if you're interested in a reasonable explanation of what happened, rather than having to read this monstrosity of an article. How do we explain it? So, the crazy thing about, and I'm sorry, I'm not really going into the details yet, but the crazy thing about it is that Trump has had almost no political fallout from that. And I don't know if because it came out right in the middle of all the Kavanaugh stuff and nobody had the energy to pay attention to it. I don't know if it's because it's very complicated, or I don't know if it's just because the man's Teflon. And this would absolutely end any other politician. It is bad.
But so with the pussy grab, this is, in my opinion, it's this is nothing, right? If you can get away with all
nothing.
the things.
It's really not. It's very significant.
No, but he's gotten away with. I know, but he can get away with anything. But yeah,
it really is just insane. So basically, Donald Trump and his brother and sisters and his cousin engaged in tax fraud throughout the 90s. because they realized in the early 90s that that Donald Trump's dad, Fred Trump, was going to die at some point because he was in his 80s and he had this vast fortune. So basically, in the States, there's a 55% estate tax. And they realized that if Fred Trump kicked the bucket, then they would lose over half of his wealth to taxes. And they didn't want that. Now, there's things that rich people do legally to kind of get out of paying estate taxes as much as possible. But the New York Times hired many tax law experts, and all of them had the opinion that given the evidence here, Trump and his family actually went way over what's legal. So what they did was fraud, was fully fraud. So Fred Trump's assets could basically be divided into two separate groups. One is the cash that he had money in bank accounts, and the other is the value of stuff he had in real estate. And so what they did with the cash is they created a fraudulent, or not, like a shell corporation, I guess, which didn't, technically had an address, which was like the basement of Donald Trump's cousin's house. But wasn't actually a real corporation. And that was supposed to be they were the in-between buyers of stuff for the Trump industry. So for example, if Fred Trump needed to buy 24 boilers for his buildings, he would negotiate a price with a guy. Okay, whatever, let's say negotiate a price of, I don't know, $200,000. I'm guessing, for half a dozen boilers, whatever it would be. And so, okay, guy agrees to it. And the guy would get a check, not from Fred Trump or the Trump organization, but from this subsidiary company. And then the subsidiary company would turn around and bill Fred Trump's company for more money. So 10%, 20%, 50% more than what the boiler guy was paid for the boilers. And then they would pocket that money in the bank and the account of that company, which is in the name of Donald Trump, his siblings, and his cousin. Right. So basically, over time, they siphoned out most of the money that Fred Trump had in bank accounts. The other thing they did, and by the way, they used this, the fact that, boilers are going up in cost, it's costing us more money, to actually increase rent on average people renting space in Trump's buildings. Yeah, so your rent goes up by $10 or $15 a month because, our boilers are costing more, sort of thing, to average people. They knew full well that's not the case. They were siphoning money. Other thing they did was they... I don't even understand exactly how they managed to do this, but they managed to get the properties undervalued for what they were actually worth. And so they basically got them assessed for less than they're actually worth and didn't have to pay taxes on that. So
crooked assessors.
Yeah, it was a really complicated thing. And so in the end...
Crooked assessors, and then also they split it into, is it Fred and Mary, like the mom and somebody else, so that they didn't have majority shares? Because then when you're saying to the IRS how much your building is worth, if I only own 49% of it, I don't have the power to sell it and get that appraised price. So there's like a 20 or 30% drop on that. So they had way undervalued appraisal, and then they could drop even that amount even more. Jeez. Just by doing that.
So the long and short of it is that in the end, Fred Trump effectively transferred over $1 billion of wealth to his children and nephew, which should have garnered the American public about $550 million in taxes. So over $500 million in taxes. What they actually paid, I believe, was $5 million. So they paid 5% of what they should have paid, as opposed to paying 55%. And they achieved this fraudulently. This was not within the rules. This is not a legal tax loop. This is not allowed. The other thing, okay, so he did something. So basically, because of statute of limitations, and the fact that Donald Trump is now the boss of every person at the IRS, it is unlikely they'd ever be prosecuted for this. However, it is possible for to go after them civilly for the money. So the mayor of New York City has said that he will use this report to now go after the Trump organization whenever he can for the money. So, I mean, that now the IRS has not said boo about this report.
Of course.
The other thing, I think to me, it's even more startling, I guess, is that throughout the election, Donald Trump over and over again said, his dad basically didn't give him any money. Like, he gave him a very small loan. The very small loan, he was only $1 million, which most of us would not think of as a very small loan. My dad gave me a very small loan, and blah, 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 and I made the rest of it totally self-made, right? But in fact, if you look at it, this whole thing started when the New York Times reporters were given 3 pages of Donald Trump's tax report, I believe, from 1994. Okay. And they realized that Donald Trump was in really dire financial straits at that point. Like, he has always been basically a con man. He never really, until the early and mid 90s, he never actually had any money of his own. He would just, kind of convince people that he could convince banks to give him crazy loans that he really shouldn't be able to get. Just, his father's so rich. He's just crazy good at playing the media and playing people that way.
And his dad would bail him out too.
Yeah, so he was getting into really dire straits. And then at that point, that's when they started basically using transferring his father's wealth, and it's only because they were able to transfer hundreds of millions of dollars, from his father to him that he ended up being able to recover and from how bad he was doing financially. So this whole thing about the whole reason he got elected, or one of the reasons he got elected, because he's so self-made. Bullshit. Like, of course, not surprised, but total bullshit,
or shocked,
and demonstrably false.
Yeah. Like, and even like before the splitting up his dad's wealth thing, his dad would bail him out in really sketchy ways too, because the States has a gift tax as well, whereas here you can give your kids money and it's not taxed. So they would do some sketchy things. One of them being like when Trump's casino was not going to be able to make their loan payments or their mortgage payments or whatever, his dad paid some dude like a shit ton of money to go and buy that same shit ton of money worth of chips and not bet them.
Yeah, I heard
and that's
about that
against gaming laws as well. So it's still illegal, but they avoid the gift tax and all that. And he cut him like multiple loans, but there's no evidence they were ever paid back, because a loan you don't pay a tax on, but a gift you pay a tax on. But if you're not actually paying it back, it's essentially a gift and you need to. So they, for like his whole life, essentially just would bail him out, give him money, give him loans in a way to give him money without Fred Trump having it. So he's not clean of this either, even though he's dead.
Oh, and he was transferring money to his son, to Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was 3 years old.
Yeah. I remember,
so, and made him an employee, who never did anything.
All sorts
paid
of
him
sketchy
a salary
shit going on in that family. Like, I don't know.
And like, isn't his sister a judge? It's said
so actually some people have been calling, because she's a federal judge, like Donald Trump's sister is a federal.
Like, he was the favorite son and got probably more.
Yeah, but she was all part of the whole thing. She signed off on the tax
shell corporation,
all the bullshit, all the fraud. Yeah. And so people are calling for her recusal. I guess probably not going to happen, but I mean, she definitely has culpability here for sure.
Wow.
So I just feel like this should be. It should be
a huge
scream
deal
from every rooftop, and we shouldn't forget this, and everyone should burn this into their brain. It's true, and it's a huge story, and it's a huge deal, and I don't care what Trump says, it is big, and it's important.
At this point, it's just what we've seen so much.
You're just numb to it now, right? Like, I think.
I know, but and I think
his supporters are blind to it, and the rest of us are just like, probably.
It's unfortunate they came out in the middle of all the Kavanaugh stuff too, right? Because it's sort of like,
I don't know if it would have been a big deal even if it hadn't.
Maybe, but
for a couple days,
because it would just be like all of us being like, we should be making a big deal of this, and his supporters like, well, no, he was smart. They were very smart.
Or they just say fake news.
Yeah,
fake news.
Yeah. I mean, anyways,
fake news. Or
it's just
taxes are crooks, anyways.
I think there's more articles been written about how little impact this article had than.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it's despicable, and I really think everyone needs to remember it. And starting with our small little podcast, but you keep burn this into your brain. Like, this is a thing. This happened. Don't let him get away with this.
Yeah.
Like, something's got to give eventually. Like, fuck. Like,
you would think so.
Just nothing matters anymore.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. It's just like, I mean, really, if you're a giant garbage fire, do you notice if there's more garbage added into the dumpster?
No.
Like, not really. It's still burning.
That's just tactics.
Yeah.
Like, how many presidents could have like paid off a porn star to sleep with them and got away with it? Like how many? Like,
what world are we living in?
Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I mean, this is tactics of an autocratic regime, right? Like, this is not democracy, right?
No, it's definitely not.
I just wanted everyone to know.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
But yeah, no, actually, sorry. I just want to also say the New York Times has a podcast that comes out every day called The Daily, and they did a really good kind of a 20-minute thing on that. So I highly recommend everyone go and download The Daily, that 20-minute thing. They explain the story very well if you don't feel like reading 14,000 words.
Right.
Okay. Fair.
All right, Angela. What do you got for us?
Another story.
Last one of the night.
No.
So there was a story in British Columbia about there was a high school assignment in social studies where basically it was an assignment that said, where's the picture?
Oh, yeah.
It was a political spectrum case study. And there were 10 questions with some examples like a person who believes that convicted murderers should be hanged. And they were basically told to answer whether it was left, central, or right. And
Politically.
Yeah. Not, and a person who is a racist. That was another question. A person who believes in higher minimum wage, and a person who believes that Canada should restrict immigration, a person who believes that women should stay home and be mothers, a person who believes that all major industries should be owned by the state. There's questions like that. And it was a little bit concerning for the father, who is, I believe he was a conservative himself. Yeah. But it was basically the teacher enforcing their will on the students and their political opinion on the students. And it was a little concerning for the parent, which is why they shared it. And now it's become, a national story. Just indicating that right-leaning people were misogynists and xenophobes and stuff like that. Which I would agree with. It seems kind of ridiculous that there would be... I mean, you're forcing students to answer according to what you believe in order to get a good mark.
Yeah.
So, Angela, I would respectfully disagree with you. I would say that, like, the way I looked at it when I cause read the article, I was like, well, this does seem kind of extreme. Then I read the actual test,
right? And
the way I look at it, and what I'm betting the teacher probably saw it was, this is not saying this is how all right-wing people are or how all left-leaning people are. I'm making a statement about this one person. Make a guess as to where they are in the political spectrum based on this. And I think all of those statements, the only exception, maybe the racist thing, I think is questionable. But everything else, like if somebody comes up to me and says, I really think women should stay at home and be stay-at-home moms, I'm pretty sure you're not voting NDP. Like, I'm pretty fucking sure. Like, that's totally reasonable for me to infer from that you're probably right leaning.
But is that like?
It doesn't mean everybody who's right wing thinks that.
Yeah.
But it means that if that's your opinion, this because the way it's worded is a person who thinks blah blah blah. Well, a person who thinks blah blah blah, a person who thinks that government should own most major industry is not a libertarian. They're just straight up not. They're not on the right part of the spectrum. That is a left. That's a left-leaning view to have.
And I think
it doesn't mean all left-leaning people think that.
Yeah, it would have been more helpful if it was this political party has a platform that includes XYZ, because this is really like labeling people and teaching these things to kids who don't know that. Like, we know that because we've met.
But I don't have any context for this. Maybe she said this to the kids. And what grade are they? Grade 8? Like, kids can have
high school.
Okay, so kids can have a lot of. Kids can understand stuff, they can have more subtlety than
I would have. Yeah, I guess I would have preferred it to be more like evidence and fact based of, which political party has advocated for
10.
X and which political party has advocated for Y, instead of a person who believes this is automatically this.
But I don't know that she worded it that way. She might have said to them, because there was no instructions at the top of the page, or maybe the instructions were on the previous page, but she might have just said, given the statements that are there, where are they most likely to be on the political spectrum? Yeah. And I mean, like, most of the only thing, like, they say, like, is a racist? Well, I mean, you could have racist people anywhere. I don't know that. I mean, to be fair, if somebody is super racist, I'm gonna assume that they voted for Trump, not Hillary, right? Like, and there's just I don't know how, but maybe I'm.
Yeah, I think this assignment. I mean, the students spoke out about this, saying that they were uncomfortable with the assignment. Yeah, it's basically a teacher saying,
"Was it an assignment or a test?"
It's an assignment. Okay. It was a worksheet. It wasn't actually a test.
Yeah, my issue is that, like, it just confirms stereotypes instead of.
How did the teacher deal with it? So this is kind of like, if I was a teacher and this is what I intended it to be, I'm going to put out these statements and you tell me what's most likely. Just go ahead and write, and giving you these instructions orally and you do it. And then my students come back to me and say, look, I'm really uncomfortable with this. But I'd be like, wow, it's awesome that you are willing to tell me about this. Right. Yeah, maybe it's over the line. You know what? Let's just say, like, yeah, I guess or if a parent, says I'm concerned about this, yeah, maybe, like, how did they deal with this? Or did they buckle down and they dig their heels and say, oh yeah, I don't know. I feel like this doesn't have to be national news. This can just be like, a misunderstanding.
I got an image of this sent to me from one of my right-wing leaning friends, or center-right friends, one of the few that I still have left. And
I was gonna say.
Yeah. And he sent it to me with the context that he got it in, a screenshot from the conservative, Canadian Conservative Party Facebook page. And I guess maybe it was a message from them or something. And it's like, look at what schools in BC are teaching our kids now. And it was very clearly to me like an outrage type response. Here's what these lefties out in BC are teaching our kids, that all us right-wing people are anti-this and racist and this and that and the other thing. And even he caught it as like he's a right-leaning dude, and he caught it as like, hey, this smells like BS to me. So I was like,
and I think that's a valid thing, and I think that an assignment like this, I think it's polarizing. You're going to have a strong reaction one way or the other, and I don't think that it's a productive assignment to have. I think when you do that, so is it a worksheet for actual marks, or is it a worksheet to think, like, get opinions of people,
to start discussion?
Like, are we pigeonholing conservatives? Are we pigeonholing left-leaning people? Are we, like, what is the purpose of this worksheet? Why don't you have a discussion? Why don't you have, mock parliament and mock debates and stuff like that with these positions for or against, to foster the critical thinking skills of the students? And that's where I was frustrated with.
But what if they
did? Assignment. Well, I mean, and we don't know that. We weren't given a lot of information. Details, All we were given was, this is a worksheet, and the conservative-leaning father was frustrated that the students were being given this worksheet. And I mean, it's true. You can have conservatives that aren't xenophobes or misogynists. It's possible, and I think it's unfair if we're just automatically tribalizing ourselves and other people and just lumping people in, because it's just not doing what we want to do. It's not advancing society whatsoever. It's just further dividing us, and it's fucking bullshit.
Okay.
On the other hand, can we just can we not just call a spade a spade? If somebody says that, like I said, they want women to stay home and be mothers, like, why do I have to bullshit? I'm like, well, it could be, there's a lot of nuance. The person could be anywhere on the spectrum. They might be a Marxist. No, they're not a fucking Marxist. They're right-leaning. Like, they just are. Like, there's, like, why do I have to, I don't know. And you're trying to teach things to 10th graders who maybe just, it doesn't have to be this, like, I mean, like, I don't know. Can we just not just say, oh, yeah, well, that's probably what they are? I mean, really? I don't know.
I think there's some value in defining, okay, this is what Marxism is, this is what being a conservative is, this is what being a liberal is. But I think it's also important to not just be like, oh, you're such a Marxist. You're just like, I'm going to fucking write you off because you're a fucking Marxist.
Yeah.
Like, that I think is stupid.
That's been happening since the 50s.
Right? I mean, why don't we talk about the issues and why don't we humanize each other instead of just like writing everybody off because, oh, you don't agree with me.
Yeah, I didn't like that it was a person who thinks like this is this.
Yes.
That's what like I said, if it was, the Conservative Party has run a platform of X, Y, and Z, then it's teaching children to be like, oh, I think I'm more like this because I agree with it. Like, I would have loved to have known what my political parties were in high school and prepare me for voting.
This is what the NDP platform is. This is what the little liberal platform
and in
is.
a unbiased, impartial way, just like their own, not seeing all the like, attack ads back and forth. Just like these are the things that the things they want to accomplish if they get voted into office.
Well, and even giving historical context too, like how like I was talking about in the Reversing Roe documentary, and how Republicans didn't always have a specific opinion on pro-life versus pro-choice. But it is now a thing. So I mean, just evolving platforms and how they came to these conclusions and what. I mean, that's helpful too, but that kind of assignment is just, it's not productive.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Anyways,
all right.
There you go.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us keep the lights on, go become a patron at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. You can hear the bonus half hour that we record every episode and get a shout out when you support the show. Become a patron for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. Or you can support the show by ordering a t-shirt, mug or other gear from our store at caffeepress.ca/Brainstorm Podcast Gear. If you can't afford to become a patron or buy gear, then why not give us a rating or write a review on iTunes or Stitcher? Every rating makes it easier for people to find us. Thanks for your support.
Hi, my name's Callie.
And I'm Ari.
If you're like most of us, you're very concerned about the gay agenda's plans for world domination.
Are you tired of seeing glitter all over every damn thing?
Do you hate rainbows as much as any other red-blooded American?
Then we have the answer for all your baseless fears and unjustified paranoia.
Presented exclusively on Secular Media Network, the Gaytheist Manifesto is your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement.
You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, and at gaytheistmanifesto.secularmediagroup.com.
If you're not ready to get in line for your mandatory gay marriage and you're terrified of short-haired women in pantsuits, come have a listen and get up to date on their plans. You'll be glad you did.
All right, outro music.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have it.
There we go.
Dave's asleep at the wheel.
I was chatting over here in the chat room.
Oh, yeah. Okay. For all the things, you can check out the show notes at our website, brainstormblog.net, and our hosting page, thebrainstormpodcast.com. Thanks to our financial supporters, Kayla, Janet, Kim, Stephanie, Zach, the Utah Outcasts, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Bob Glenn, Destin Doesn't Suck That Much, Magnus, several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave, Positively Skeptical, Rob, Keith, the Podunk Polymath, Larry, the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Saspi upon him, and Freethinker 215. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. Or go buy some stuff at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. We're on every 2 weeks on brainstormradio.net. Our next live show is October 26th, and our guest is Jillian Scudder.
Oh, Jillian!
Astrophysicist and now author.
And former office mate of me.
There you go.
Oh, wow. Like in studio or no?
No, like we went to grad school together and we sat behind each other slaving away.
No, I mean, like, is she going to be here in studio?
No, she's in, like, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. So it'll be a long distance interview.
She's smart. Nice. She writes books and she writes articles for Forbes.
Yeah. I want to give a big thanks to Kevin for joining us. You can find more of his stuff at kevinandbenedict.com. I'd like to thank my panel, Lisa, Angela, Sarah, and Dave.
You're welcome.
You're welcome for talking exactly the right amount.
Yes, that's right. I also want to thank Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from the Embrace the Void podcast for doing the voiceover for our intro. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Kepper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, sign up for our newsletter, share the show, and spread the word. The more you share, comment, and like our stuff, the more it helps the show grow. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Corey, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.